Multiple devices එකවර connect කළ හැකි internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber. Multiple devices එකවර connect කළ හැකි internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber.
More pain. Fuel prices increase amid indefinite delay of shipments of oil. Clarion called. Companies with capacity to provide aviation fuel invited for airport aviation fueling services.
He was offered the agreement, but unfortunately it has been 2 weeks. That agreement has not been honoured. We are also looking at possible avenues to see whether there are other suppliers.
Exploring options. Key US State Department officials arrive in Sri Lanka for talks on supporting Sri Lanka through crisis, while Sri Lanka looks to also seek Russian assistance. More players. Sri Lanka to allow more fuel distributors as state-run CPC no longer able to fulfill fuel requirements. All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9, this Sunday the 26th of June 2022.
Power Tomex පැල්ලම් සහ විසබීජ අවම කර දින 3ක් දක්වා ටොයිලට් එක ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ව තමයි Tomex.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
A warm welcome. You're joining us on AdaDerana English News, and I'm Indivari Amuat. Taking you to our top story tonight. Fuel prices in the country were raised by 15% and 22% for diesel and petrol respectively, with effect from today, a day after the Energy Minister announced an indefinite delay to shipments of crude bound to Colombo. The new price of a litre of octane will thereby be 92 octane will be sold at 470 rupees, while octane 95 will be sold at 550 rupees per litre. Sipetco said that the price of auto diesel has been increased to 460 rupees and super diesel to 520 rupees per litre. Following the fuel price hike, although the All Ceylon Three-Wheelers Trade Union Association said that they will not increase the starting fare, the Private Bus Owners Association said that bus fares must be raised by 15% and that the minimum bus fare should be raised to 40 rupees. The Minister of Power and Energy stated that due to the increase in fuel prices, Sipetco will be making a gain on octane 92, 95 and super diesel, but will be making bigger losses on super diesel and kerosene.
The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation announced an increase in its fuel prices yesterday and said that the new prices will go into effect from 2 a.m. today. Accordingly, Sipetco's price of 92 octane petrol has been raised by 50 rupees to 470 rupees per litre, while 95 octane petrol has been increased by 100 rupees to 550 rupees per litre. Sipetco said that the price of auto diesel has been increased by 60 rupees to 460 rupees, while a litre of super diesel has been increased by 75 rupees to 520 rupees. The price of kerosene remains unchanged and will continue to be sold at 87 rupees a litre. With the new hike in fuel prices, the Ministry of Energy said that the government will make a profit of 68 rupees and 61 cents per litre of octane 95 petrol and 15 rupees and 57 cents of profit on every litre of 92 octane petrol. Further, the ministry stated that it will mark a gain of 20 rupees and 27 cents for every litre of super diesel that is purchased. The ministry, however, noted that it will be making a loss of 8 rupees and 52 cents per litre of auto diesel and a 334 rupee loss on every litre of kerosene. Meanwhile, Lanka IOC simultaneously raised their fuel prices to match that of Sipetco. With price of fuel raised, concerns have risen on a possible public transport fare hike, with minimum bus and three-wheeler fares expected to rise. The All Ceylon Three-Wheelers Union stated that despite increases in fuel prices, the minimum fare for three-wheelers will not change and continue to remain at 100 rupees for the first kilometre.
ගාස්තු මීටරේ තියෙන රේදුරන්ට පළමු කිලෝමීටර රුපියල් 100 කියන එක වැඩි කරන්න සූදානම් වෙන්න එපා. පළමු කිලෝ රුපියල් 100යි. දෙවෙනි එක රුපියල් 90ක් හැටියට මේ අවස්ථාවේ වැඩි කරගමු. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපිට මේක කවදාවත් රස්සාව කරන්න හම්බෙන්නේ නැහැ. ගාස් පෙට්‍රල් මිලියන වලට අයාලේ ගණන් අය කරන්න එපා.
The private bus owners associations meanwhile stated that bus fares should be raised due to the increase in auto diesel prices by 60 rupees.
රුපියල් 60කින් ඩීසල් මිල ඉහළ යාමත් සමග බස් ගාස්තු සංශෝධනයක් අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම අවශ්‍ය වෙලා තිබෙනවා. එහි ප්‍රතිශතය 15%ක් වෙනවා. ඒ වගේම වර්ෂයකට එක් වතාවක් පමණක් සංශෝධනය වෙන බස් ගාස්තු වැඩිවීම මේ ජුනි 30 වෙනිදා ලැබෙන්නට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා. මේ දෙකම එකතු කළාම 35ක 40ක බස් ගාස්තු වැඩිවීමක් අපි රජයට යෝජනා කරනවා.
Now, Sri Lanka is considering up to 4 distributors of petrol products as state-run Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is unable to fulfill requirements for fuel in the country. Addressing a media briefing today, Energy Minister Kanchana Vijaysekara said that about 300 to 400 filling stations owned by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will be given to the new distributors to carry out refueling services to the general public. It was also revealed that companies with capacity to provide aviation fueling services, including marine bunkering companies, have been invited. The move comes amid an extreme shortage of fuel and difficulties faced by the country in securing sufficient US dollars to secure the needed fuel categories.
There were 7 proposals for Jet A1 aviation fuel. So out of the 7 proposals, we issued an agreement that what we can implement. So there were certain proposals that accepted the agreement, and after their financial proposals were reviewed, one agreement was chosen. He was offered the agreement, but unfortunately it has been 2 weeks. That agreement has not been honored. But while we can't terminate an agreement immediately once something is given out, we are also looking at possible avenues to see whether there are other suppliers who can match the same agreement details. So we are working with a few other people as well. And also in the meantime, since there's a shortage in Jet A1, what we did was with the refinery production, we were managing the Sri Lankan Airlines flights. Now Sri Lankan Airlines has also suggested that they will be importing fuel, and we will do the facilitation part. And also the Minister of Aviation has communicated that he is also taking a cabinet paper to see the possibility of getting bunker suppliers to do the aviation fuel importation and distribution. Of course, we will support CPC and CPSTL, but importing of fuels, we are going to allow anyone who wants to import and who has the capability of import. It has to be within our guidelines. If the technical requirements are met, we will even ask individual companies who have their requirements, they can import their fuel.
In the meantime, Minister of Power and Energy Kanchana Vijaysekara said that Sri Lanka plans to allow up to 4 players to join the country's fuel distribution process. Currently, Sri Lanka has only 2 distributors, state-run Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and the Lanka Indian Oil Company. He said that 300 to 400 filling stations belonging to the CPC can be given to the new players to carry out fuel supplies. The minister added that any new player will have to import fuel on credit.
Now, the Minister of Power and Energy also announced that a token system to distribute fuel will be introduced from tomorrow. Speaking during the media briefing, Minister Kanchana Vijaysekara said that the decision was taken at a media briefing when, or rather at a meeting when the Security Council chaired by the President and the Prime Minister met yesterday. However, the Minister requested the public not to remain in queues at filling stations until the next fuel shipment arrives, as stocks of fuel held by Ceylon Petroleum Corporation are being distributed only for essential purposes. He further stated that the exact date of arrival for the next fuel shipment cannot be confirmed at the moment. The minister went on to say that tokens will be issued after obtaining their telephone numbers so that it cannot be changed. The day after tomorrow, they will not be able to deliver fuel to every filling station, but limited stocks will be delivered to limited fuel stations. The Ministry of Public Administration has issued a circular directing the heads of government institutions to call only the minimum necessary staff for day-to-day services until further notice. The circular issued today by the Secretary to the Ministry of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government, M. Mayadunne, states that until further notice, only the minimum staff essential to carry out daily duties of the institution without interruption should be called in view of the difficulties faced by the public in day-to-day transport. The circular directs heads of government institutions to allow officers to stay at home at all times possible by obtaining their services online. Accordingly, travelling of government officers should be restricted to ensure maximum efficiency of fuel consumption during this period, and action should be taken to conduct all meetings and discussions online, according to the circular. However, it says this should not be an obstacle for the maintenance of essential services provided by the government. The Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka approved power cuts of 3 hours per day from tomorrow until the 3rd of July. Accordingly, groups A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W will have experienced a power interruption of 1 hour and 40 minutes during daytime and 1 hour and 20 minutes during the night. Group CC will have power interruption of 2 hours from 6 a.m. until 8 a.m. except on the 2nd and 3rd of July. Groups M, N, O, X, Y and Z will experience power interruption of 3 hours from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. except on the 2nd and 3rd of July. The Minister of Education says that schools in the Colombo zone and other major cities will remain closed next week from the 27th of June until the 1st of July. However, the ministry said that rural schools can function as normal on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday during next week. Accordingly, issuing a notice, the ministry informed that the educational activities in schools during the week from the 27th of June, that is starting tomorrow, until the 1st of July will be conducted according to the schools where students and teachers are not having transport difficulties must be conducted normally, just as rural schools were held from the 20th, that is Monday, to the 24th, and if there are teachers facing transport difficulties, the principal will arrange a flexible timetable for them without considering their personal leave. Now, urban schools which were not held last week must be conducted 3 days a week, that is Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at the discretion of the number of days conducting primary classes in these schools lies with the principal. And we'll return with more news on the other side of this break. To stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back to the news. A high-level delegation from the US government arrived in Sri Lanka early this morning to hold talks with Sri Lankan authorities in a bid to find ways to support the island overcome the current crisis. Now, the delegation led by Robert Kaproff, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Treasury for Asia, and Ambassador Kelly Caderling, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, were welcomed at the Bandaranaike International Airport by representatives of the US mission in Colombo, together with Sri Lanka Foreign Ministry officials. The Colombo-based US mission said in a statement yesterday that the delegation will explore the most effective ways for the United States to support Sri Lankans working to resolve the current economic crisis. The statement went on to say that the US will continue to support Sri Lankans in the coming months as the country revives the economy, combats food insecurity, and promotes public health and education. The visiting delegation will meet a wide range of political representatives, economists, and international organizations until they leave the island on Wednesday. Now, bailout talks between Sri Lankan government and the International Monetary Fund mission team visiting in the island will continue into an 8th day tomorrow as Sri Lanka seeks to strike an IMF staff-level agreement for a $3 billion package. The IMF mission is in Sri Lanka through June 30th, holding talks on matters pertaining to what would be Sri Lanka's 17th IMF rescue program.
Sri Lanka kick-started in-person talks with the International Monetary Fund on June 20th when the visiting delegation of the global lender met with Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The ongoing discussions sent an economic program that could be supported by an IMF lending arrangement, building on the progress made during the virtual mission from the 9th to the 24th of May. Sri Lanka's first phase of discussions with the IMF were carried out in Washington from the 18th to the 22nd of April, with the expectation of reaching a staff-level agreement with the IMF for $3 billion bailout package while the global lenders extended fund facility. The future course of action on borrowing will depend on the conclusion of agreements between Sri Lanka and the IMF staff team. On Friday, the 10-member IMF delegation met with President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to brief on the progress made so far. The International Monetary Fund has reaffirmed its commitment to support Sri Lanka at this difficult time in line with its policies, but placed a number of conditions in order to agree to a bailout package. In May, the global lenders said it required sufficient assurances from Sri Lanka that the country will restore debt sustainability during the debt restructuring process. Sri Lanka already initiated measures to restructure foreign debt, a prerequisite for an IMF program, after the government suspended all external debt repayments on the 12th of April. With an acute foreign currency crisis, Sri Lanka announced in April the suspension of $7 billion of foreign debt repayment due for 2022. Sri Lanka's foreign debt stands at $51 billion. In order to assist the process, Sri Lanka last month appointed Lazard, which has handled debt talks for dozens of crisis-strained countries in recent years, and law firm Clifford Chance to renegotiate the island's debts. Representatives from Lazard and Clifford Chance too are in Sri Lanka to advise on the restructuring of over $12 billion in debt.
Now, the tourism industry, a vital source of foreign exchange earnings to Sri Lanka, was hard hit due to the COVID-19 pandemic-related restrictions. And now, given the current fuel crisis, we're talking about what measures should Sri Lanka have to encourage more visitors to the destination. Now, tourist arrivals, which was on average around 90,000 to 100,000 a month during the first 3 months of this year, has reduced drastically to around 30,000 a month at present. Sri Lanka is expecting earnings from tourism to play a significant role in driving the recovery of the country's foreign crisis and currency situation. But can the industry do this given the current situation? Joining me now is former president of the Hotels Association, Mr. Anura Lokuhetti. A warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
We're talking about whether the tourism industry can drive the recovery of tourism and also drive the foreign currency recovery in the country.
Considering if you just look at 2018, we got about $4.5 billion, and tourism is the best industry that can help the economy at the moment, because already in the industry we have invested about $20 billion. So infrastructure is there, the hotels are there, and only issue that we have had was that there were travel advisories since April this year.
Is that why we've gone down to about 30,000 visitors?
I'm sure it would have had a major impact, but they are softened now. So now the travel advisories are no more making a bigger threat to the industry. Right now this fuel crisis also has added to the current situation. Now if you look at last couple of months, say April and May, most of the hotels sustain their businesses through Sri Lankan business because of the there were major drop in tourist arrivals since April due to various situations, particularly the travel advisories. Right. Now those have been softened, and we are confident that we can get the tourists again.
And even Sri Lankans locals cannot visit these hotels
That's
due
the
to
issue
the
at the
fuel
moment.
restrictions.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a recovery. You say a capital investment is not needed at present because the tourism industry has about 20 billion already invested there to be utilized. But what are the challenges are you faced with?
The biggest challenge the hotels are faced today is the moratorium. The moratorium is going to end up by June 30th. But we have got to know that there had been a cabinet approval was given on June 7th. And we are waiting until it is to be implemented, and we are confident that they will implement it, and it need to be done soon, because if there is any delay in implementing the moratorium, 80% of the hotels will close down, 80 to 90%, because like any other country in the world, even Sri Lanka's biggest investors are the small and medium enterprises, SMEs, right? There are a couple of companies, maybe they are having overseas hotels, but with people who are totally dependent upon the Sri Lankan tourism industry cannot survive to pay even salaries for this month. They are finding it difficult because of lack of even Sri Lankan travel. On top of that, if the moratorium is not extended, they will have to really close down the hotels.
But the cabinet approved this extension from the 30th of June, which is the end of this month, until end of December.
That's what we have requested for.
So are the banks on board with this?
Banks also will have to, I'm sure they are also really interested in getting a direction from the government, because in case if the moratorium come to an end, then the people will have no money to pay.
So does this mean the government has to issue a directive?
So there is a procedure, like you see, the central bank will have to inform the banks that the moratorium will be extended until December 31st. So that is what we are all waiting for, because a lot of people will close down the hotels if the moratorium is not extended. And in that case, what will happen is most of these hotel loans will go to NPL. So in that case, even the bank rating will come down. That will have a major impact on the banking sector as well. And also, if you look at the total exposure of the banks towards the tourism industry, is only 6%, right? So that is not a major contribution, a major sort of drawback for the banks to extend the moratorium.
Ripple effects of the tourism industry could be seen in the economy.
Exactly.
But going forward, what does the Hotels Association, do you think? You are the former president of the Hotels Association, but we're talking about what needs to be done now. What attractive means and ways can be utilized and implemented to bring these tourists who, as you earlier said, are waiting to visit Sri Lanka but are unable to due to the economic crisis?
So actually, in fact, we have started getting much more inquiries than before. So one of the major factors is this fuel crisis. But so far, even with the fuel crisis, so whatever the other issues, all the tourists who have come to Sri Lanka, all the hoteliers and travel agents have taken care of them. So there is no any negative sort of reputation for Sri Lanka tourism. So only what is required is, if the fuel situation is improved and the moratorium is extended, we will be able to bring the dollars to the country. And this tourism's revenue, 80% remains in the country, unlike any other industry. Net foreign exchange revenue wise, tourism is #1 in Sri Lanka, and we are confident. And also, unlike any other industry, already infrastructure is there, hotels are there, so straight away we can start getting the dollars. But in the event that if we don't get this moratorium extended, if the hotels started closing down, even other things like even the fuel or whatever the other situation improves, there will be no hotels to cater to the requirements. And there are, I mean, we see by July, August, this should really improve once again.
We're sure authorities will take steps to extend the moratorium by the 30th of June until
1st of July to
December
31st, 2022.
But in the event that this moratorium is extended and tourists keep pouring into the country, how do we mitigate the challenges of the fuel crisis at the same time on the tourism industry? I'd like to see what innovative measures we could take here in Sri Lanka.
Okay, I'm sure the government is also taking measures towards that. We have seen now the people have been requested to register the vehicles with the petrol stations, and I'm sure government also understand the importance of restoring the tourism industry in order to get this much required dollars to this country. So therefore, if the moratorium is extended and fuel situation is improved, then of course I think we will be really we will be able to get out of this economic crisis at the moment.
Thank you very much for your time here at our studios, Mr. Lokohetti. We were in discussion with the former president of the Hotels Association of Sri Lanka, Mr. Anura Lokohetti, joining us here. 2 persons have succumbed to burn injuries after 4 members of the same family were hospitalized following a fire that broke out at their home in Kahatodua. Police said that 4 individuals, including the father, mother and their 2 children, were admitted to hospital after a fire broke out inside a room of the family residence last night. They were later taken to the Homagama Hospital and then transferred to the Colombo National Hospital for treatment. The 41-year-old father and 38-year-old mother later succumbed to their injuries while receiving treatment at the Colombo National Hospital. Their 18-year-old daughter is being treated at the intensive care unit of the National Hospital, while the other 4-year-old daughter is receiving treatment at the Lady Ridgeway Hospital for children. Police say the cause of the fire is yet unknown. The All Ceylon Restaurant Owners Association said that the price of a rice packet and all other food items will be increased by 10%. The association said that the prices will be increased due to the hike in fuel prices announced today. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and Lanka IOC announced that they have increased fuel prices with effect from today. That's all. Thank you for watching. Have a pleasant evening.